Before CNN, news had a schedule. After Ted Turner, news never slept again. Today, we remember the man who gave the world CNN, lost billions, loved Jane Fonda, fought his inner demons, and spent his final years trying to save the planet he once helped connect. By the end of this story, you may see Ted Turner not only as a media giant, but as one of the most complicated American legends of our time.
I do feel like a pretty good... I've tried real hard to be a good person. That's what my parents told me.
Ted Turner, the legendary media pioneer, CNN founder, philanthropist, and one of the most daring figures in American broadcasting history, has sadly passed away at the age of 87. For decades, he was more than a businessman. He was a force of nature, loud, fearless, unpredictable, and often impossible to ignore. He built a small television station into a media empire, gave the world CNN, helped shape cable television, owned the Atlanta Braves, won the America's Cup, married Jane Fonda, and later gave away $1 billion in an effort to help the world heal. But behind the public image of the billionaire mogul known as the Mouth of the South and Captain Outrageous was a man shaped by pain, family tragedy, personal loss, and a relentless need to prove that his life had meaning. Today, we look back at Ted Turner's extraordinary career, the private wounds that followed him, the controversies that made headlines, and the legacy he leaves behind. But first, how do you remember Ted Turner? Do you see him most as the founder of CNN, a media rebel, a philanthropist, or one of the last true mavericks of American television? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Ted Turner's story began far from the cable news empire that would one day carry his name across the world. Robert Edward Ted Turner III was born on November 19, 1938, in Cincinnati, Ohio, to Florence and Robert Edward Turner II. His father was a billboard magnate, a successful but stern man whose shadow loomed heavily over Ted's early life. By many accounts, Turner's childhood was marked by discipline, pressure, and emotional hardship. His father could be harsh, even brutal, and young Ted grew up learning that affection and fear could exist in the same home. But tragedy arrived early. Turner's younger sister, Mary Jean, died from lupus when she was only 17. Then, when Ted was just 24, his father, struggling with depression and under the influence of alcohol and pills, took his own life. That moment shattered the family, but it also forced Ted Turner into adulthood with almost no warning. He inherited the family business and the emotional burden that came with it. Yet, as painful as that beginning was, it also lit a fire inside him. After his father's death, Turner took control of the billboard company and began making bold moves almost immediately. He challenged deals his father had made before dying, regained control of assets, and slowly expanded the business. At first, it was advertising. Then came radio. Then television. And then came the move that would change everything. In 1970, Turner bought a struggling UHF television station in Atlanta. He renamed it TCG, which he liked to say stood for Watch This Channel Grow. At the time, few could have imagined how prophetic those words would become. Turner filled the station with reruns, cartoons, old movies, and sports programming. He acquired the rights to Atlanta Braves games, then used satellite technology to send his local station to cable systems across the country. In doing so, he helped create one of television's first true superstations. But Turner was not satisfied with simply owning a successful station. He saw something bigger. He understood that television did not have to be limited by geography. He saw that cable could offer specialized channels, targeted programming, and around-the-clock content long before many others believed it was possible. That vision became Turner Broadcasting System, and from there, his empire began to grow. Then came his boldest gamble. For nearly a decade, Turner had imagined a television channel that would broadcast news 24 hours a day. To many executives, the idea seemed reckless. Who would watch news all day? How could a network survive when cable television was still young? Some even feared the idea could bankrupt his company. But Ted Turner believed people wanted access to news whenever it happened, not only at 6 p.m., not only when the major networks decided it was time. So, on June 1st, 1980, he launched CNN. At first, critics mocked it. Some called it the Chicken Noodle Network. The early years were financially painful, and Turner had to use profits from his other businesses to keep CNN alive. But he refused to give up. He hired serious journalists, including names like Lou Dobbs, Bernard Shaw, Wolf Blitzer, and others who would help turn CNN into a global news force. Turner famously declared that CNN would not sign off until the world ended. And in 1991, during the Persian Gulf War, the world finally understood what he had built. While other networks relied on anchors behind desks in New York, CNN delivered live coverage from Baghdad as bombs fell. Viewers watched history unfold in real time. It was not just a broadcast achievement, it was a turning point in journalism. CNN became a household name, and Ted Turner became the man who had changed how the world watched news. But CNN was only part of his influence. Turner's empire expanded into entertainment, film, sports, and animation. He bought the Atlanta Braves and the Atlanta Hawks, partly because sports gave his television stations valuable programming. He purchased the MGM/United Artists film library, giving him access to thousands of classic movies that later helped launch TNT and Turner Classic Movies. He bought Hanna-Barbera, bringing beloved characters like the Flintstones, Yogi Bear, the Jetsons, and Scooby-Doo into his world. Alongside Looney Tunes characters like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, those libraries became the foundation of Cartoon Network. Without Ted Turner, television might not look the way it does today. The idea of an all-news channel, an all-cartoon channel, an all-movie channel, and specialized cable programming all carried his fingerprints. He did not just build networks, he expanded the imagination of what television could be. Yet, despite all his success, Ted Turner was never a simple hero. He was brilliant, but he was also brash. He was generous, but he could be abrasive. He was visionary, but he often spoke before thinking. His nicknames, Mouth of the South and Captain Outrageous, were not accidental. He courted controversy with remarks that shocked people, angered rivals, and sometimes forced him to explain himself afterward. He once compared fellow media mogul Rupert Murdoch to Adolf Hitler, and even challenged him to a pay-per-view boxing match. After the September 11th attacks, Turner made comments that drew intense backlash. He later admitted that while he considered himself a good thinker, he sometimes chose the wrong words. That was Ted Turner, a man of huge ideas, huge ambition, and sometimes huge mistakes. But even in his most controversial moments, he remained difficult to dismiss, because beneath the noise was a genuine belief that he could change the world. That belief became especially clear after his media career began to fade. In 1995, Turner sold his media empire to Time Warner in a massive deal. At first, he remained a powerful figure inside the company, but after the disastrous AOL-Time Warner merger, Turner's role diminished. The company's stock collapsed, wiping billions from his fortune. Even worse for him emotionally, he was pushed away from the business he had built. For a man who had lived inside his work, this was not just a corporate loss, it was personal. Turner later said it was hard to love someone who had fired him from a job he truly liked. He did not claim to hate Gerald Levin, the Time Warner executive associated with his ouster, but the wound remained. It was as though the empire he had created had continued without him, while he was left to search for a new purpose. And so, he turned toward philanthropy. In 1997, Ted Turner made one of the most famous charitable pledges in modern history. He donated $1 billion to support the United Nations. It was an extraordinary gesture, not only because of the amount, but because it represented a major shift in his life. The man who once chased ratings, acquisitions, and market dominance now wanted to fight poverty, disease, environmental destruction, nuclear threats, and global instability. He founded and supported organizations such as the UN Foundation, the Nuclear Threat Initiative, and the Turner Foundation. He poured money into environmental causes. He warned about overpopulation, climate change, and the dangers facing the planet. He carried a card in his wallet listing his 11 voluntary initiatives, a personal code of values that included a promise to care for planet Earth and all living things on it. In later years, Turner owned vast stretches of land and dozens of ranches. He became one of America's largest private landowners and raised tens of thousands of bison. To some, it looked like the eccentric lifestyle of a billionaire. But to Turner, land, wildlife, conservation, and global responsibility were all connected. He had moved from broadcasting the world's crises to trying, in his own way, to help solve them. But success, wealth, and purpose did not erase loneliness. Ted Turner's personal life was as complicated as his career. He was married 3 times and had 5 children. For many people, his most famous relationship was with actress and activist Jane Fonda. Turner met Fonda after her marriage to Tom Hayden ended. She initially told him it was too soon to date and suggested he call again in 6 months. Turner did exactly that, to the day. They married in 1991 and became one of America's most fascinating power couples. Both were outspoken. Both were passionate. Both believed in causes larger than themselves. But the marriage ended in 2001, and the divorce deeply wounded Turner. He admitted that he cried for months after their separation. Friends believed he remained in love with her long after the marriage was over. In one sense, Jane Fonda represented something Turner always seemed to chase: connection, meaning, and someone who could stand beside his restless spirit. But life with Ted Turner was not easy. He traveled constantly. He owned many homes. He lived with a pace and intensity that could exhaust even those closest to him. After Fonda, Turner's romantic life remained unconventional. He spoke openly about having multiple girlfriends and dividing time among them. But behind the unusual arrangement was a quieter truth. Ted Turner, despite all his achievements, could still feel alone. That loneliness became more visible as he aged. By his 70s, the once unstoppable mogul had slowed down. He went to bed early. He read nonfiction. He watched little television aside from CNN. He drove a Prius and said he had not personally gone shopping in years. He used hearing aids. He dealt with sleep apnea and an irregular heartbeat. He gave up alcohol completely. He spoke with a psychiatrist friend once a month, not because he called it therapy, but because he needed someone to talk to. And later in life, Turner faced another serious battle, Lewy body dementia. In his final years, the disease became part of his story, a painful chapter for a man whose life had been built on speed, instinct, wit, and mental force. Ted Turner died at 87 after years of health challenges, including Lewy body dementia. His passing marks the end of one of the most extraordinary lives in American media, a life filled with triumph, risk, contradiction, heartbreak, and enormous influence. But perhaps the most moving part of Ted Turner's story is not simply what he built. It is what he spent his life trying to overcome. He overcame a painful childhood. He survived the suicide of his father. He carried grief for his sister. He battled inner demons, anxiety, and the pressure of impossible expectations. He chased success with almost frantic intensity, as if each victory might finally prove something to the world, to his father, and perhaps to himself. There is a haunting detail from his life. After being named Time's Man of the Year, Turner reportedly held up the magazine and said, "See, Dad, I made it after all." In that moment, the billionaire, the sailor, the founder of CNN, the owner of teams and networks and ranches, sounded like a son still hoping his father could see him. That is what makes Ted Turner's story so human. He was not perfect. He said things he later had to explain. He made enemies. He made mistakes. His marriages failed. His empire slipped from his control. His fortune rose and fell, but he kept moving. He kept creating. He kept giving. He kept trying to turn his restless energy into something larger than himself. And that is why his legacy matters. Ted Turner changed television forever. He helped create the age of cable. He made 24-hour news a permanent part of modern life. He gave classic films and cartoons new homes. He proved that a person with enough vision and enough stubbornness could take a small station and turn it into a global force. Later, he proved that wealth could be used not only to build empires, but also to support causes that reach far beyond one lifetime. He is survived by his 5 children, 14 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. His family has asked for privacy as they mourn the loss of their beloved patriarch, with a private service planned and a public memorial to be held later. Ted Turner may no longer be here, but the world he helped create is still all around us. Every breaking news alert, every specialized cable channel, every global broadcast that connects viewers across continents carries part of his influence. His voice may be silent now, but his vision continues to echo. His story reminds us that greatness is rarely neat. It is often messy, wounded, loud, flawed, and deeply human. Ted Turner was all of those things. He was a dreamer who disrupted an industry, a businessman who lost control of his empire, a philanthropist who wanted to save the planet, and a man who spent his life trying to outrun pain while building something the world could not forget. What are your thoughts on Ted Turner's incredible life? Did CNN, TBS, Turner Classic Movies, Cartoon Network, or one of his many contributions touch your life in some way? Share your memories in the comments below. And if Ted Turner's story reminds you that one person can still change the world. Take a moment to honor the legacy of a man who dared to believe that television, and perhaps humanity itself, could become something bigger.